Okay, Sunday. It's Chafei Kislev. It's the first day of Chag HaChanukah, and we're learning a Maimer. Now, normally the second hour of Sundays are Yom Yom, right? But normal is unless it's not normal, yeah? I wasn't here at this Kislev, so Friday we did a Yitis Kislev like a Maimer. So today we're doing Vayeshev. In other words, this coming Friday we'll do Miketz, and we're on schedule. I think there's 63 Maimorim in Tashmimav, 63. Which is a lot. We usually average between 40 and 50 per year, like an extra 15, so we're going to have to do a little more stealing than we normally do. But last time we started, last Maimah we learned, which was Friday, was the beginning of a new year, Tavshin Mamal. I don't know if you're familiar with our program here, but every year for Yitis Kislev, we learn a year of Maimorim from the Rebbe. So we just finished Tavshin Membeis, did every single Maimah, and now we're going backwards. We're doing Mem Aleph, 1981. So on Friday we did a Maimah Yitis Kislev. Today we're doing a Maimah Vayeshev. In other words, this is what we should have done Friday. We didn't do it Friday, so we're doing it today. Let's read. The Maimah is very straight up. It really is. Not hard. Vayeshev Yaakov be'eretz Megurayav be'eretz Canaan. Yaakov Avinu lived in the land where his father lived, in the land of Canaan. Right? That's the literal translation of these words. Yaakov Avinu lived in the land where his father lived, in the land of Canaan. Now, every word in this pasuk begs to be explained. Right? The beginning of the Parsha, Yaakov comes home. Yaakov came home last week. In Parsha Vayeshev, Yaakov Avinu came home. Right? Because in Parsha Vayeshev, Yitzchak actually passes away. Yitzchak passed away last week. The Torah is not written in a chronological sequence. Last week's Parsha says Yitzchak passed away and Esav and Yaakov buried him. So when it says in this week's Parsha, the Parsha begins, Vayeshev Yaakov Eretz Meguri Eretz Canaan, it's a repeat of what happened last week. You know, like you have the beginning of Vayetze. It says Vayetze Yaakov Eshav Elacharona. Rashi says, in the end the Parsha's told us it says Vayetze. Was it Nacham of Vayetze? And he gives a different shot. Here you have a pasuk, the beginning of Parsha Vayeshev. Vayeshev Yaakov be'eretz Meguri Ave be'eretz Canaan. He's already returned home. He's lived with his father for a certain number of years. His father had a chance to pass away. Yaakov is still living. But the Torah begins by repeating this inyan, that Vayeshev, Yaakov is sitting. And he's sitting in a settled way, in a peaceful way, b'shalva. Be'eretz Meguri Ave be'eretz Canaan. And there are many Mamari Chasidis that analyze virtually every single word of this pasuk. This particular Maimon analyzes only several of the words. Now, we're not going into every nuance, we're going into certain nuances. So we begin 6 lines into the paragraph. The question asked in all the Maimorim, or many of the Maimorim, on this pasuk, skip the parentheses, is the Yesh Lahavin Inyan HaKefa. Why does it say twice? Vayeshev Yaakov be'eretz Meguri Aviv be'eretz Canaan. It would have been enough if it said Vayeshev Yaakov be'eretz Meguri Aviv be'Canaan or Canaan. The word be'eretz written twice is redundant, is unnecessary. To be sure, if it would have said Vayeshev Yaakov be'Meguri Aviv be'Canaan, it would have been fine. Right? Hebrew is not English. You don't have to have all of these words to fill out a sentence. Both be'eretz can arguably be considered not necessary, but certainly the redundancy is certainly a question. Gam. I'm reading by the base and the vertical line. 8 lines in. Medaikim, another question is, Mash be'pasuk zeh, in this pasuk, or b'chal ha'teira, in the whole of the Torah, nikras Eretz Yisrael b'shem Eretz Canaan. The Holy Land, the land of Israel, is called the land of Canaan. Now we know why it was called the land of Canaan, because Canaanites lived there. That's why it's called Canaan. But Gufa Kasha, the fact that in the Torah it says that the land where the Jewish people lived is the land of Canaan is itself a question. V'harei ksiv. And the Rebbe asks, the Torah tells us, Canaan, the nation of Canaan, the people of Canaan, biyodei carries in his hand moznei mirmo. Moznei means a scale of deception. His measure is devious. Why would the Torah identify Eretz Canaan as Canaan? They represent mirma, deception, deviousness. And it also says, V'chomu avi Canaan, and it says, Oror Canaan, Eved avalim Yelachov. It's very difficult to understand why the land where the Avos lived is called in the Torah Canaan. So the Rebbe answers the question, simply 5 lines. from the end of the paragraph. V'hagam shemavur ta'am adavar. The reason is obvious. Lefi shaknani hoya oz ba'aretz. Because at that particular time, the Canaanites, or the Canaanites, as they're translated into English, had occupied the land. And of course, you know what Rashi says. The meaning of this pasuk, V'haknani oz ba'aretz, is, look at the next words, Shahaya kevish eretz zum ibnei Shem. If you've ever studied the beginning of the Parsha Noach, we had the distribution of the lands of after the Mabul, Canaan. This land was originally given to Shem, and Canaan took it from Shem. So the question is, the fact that it was originally Semitic land, Shem, and Canaan took it from Shem, and while Avraham Avinu was living there, Canaan was occupying the land. And of course, this is the whole debate between Lot and Avraham. Lot says, I'm allowed to steal because the land is really mine. And Avraham says, it may be yours, but the time hasn't come. At this particular moment, it belongs to them. And if you steal, it's not allowed. Mizeh Gufa, the self indicates, that in essence, Zui Eretz B'nai Shem is the land of Shem. V'loma Nikras Eretz Canaan. Why would the Torah call it Eretz Canaan? That's the question. So, how many questions do we have? We have two questions, basically. Question number one is, why do we say the word Eretz twice? Eretz once would have been sufficient, and you can even make the case that if you had Eretz 0 times, it would also be fine. And even though it was true that realistically, actually, the people living in that land at that time were Canaan, the Torah doesn't have to write everything. The Torah could have found other ways of saying it. The Torah's choice to identify the land by the people of Canaan, that the Torah calls them Mirma, has to be precise on a Torah level, not just on a historic level, but on a Torah level. And this becomes the question. And there it answers the question right away. The answer is as follows. The fact that in this passage, the word Eretz is repeated 2 times. And the question of the Maimon was, why the repetition? Nagam de bepashtas koi al isa Eretz. On a simple level, Eretz Meguri Yaviv and Eretz Canaan is a reference to the same land. Eretz Yisrael, the land of Yisrael. In other words, in Pshutei Shal Mikra, it's acceptable for the Torah to speak this way. In Pshutei Shal Mikra, in Pshat, it's okay for the Torah to use the same word twice. It's part of the form of the prose or the rhyme of the Torah that says Eretz Meguri Yaviv, Eretz Canaan. Moving, it's nevertheless understood on a deeper level. Shabeis Palmim Eretz. The reason it says the word Eretz twice is because Hameis Bechinas Eretz. Because physically, Yaakov was living in one place. Spiritually, this land represents 2 levels. 2 levels. U'kumei shekosov, as it says in the pasuk in Tilim, es halayich lefnei havayeh ba'artzei sachayim. I will walk before HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the lands of life. Translates the Rebbe, Arseis Lashon Rabim and Chayim Lashon. The lands are plural, and the life is plural. Shein Beis Bechinas Eretz is 2 levels of Eretz. So what the Rebbe is saying like this: physically, Yaakov was in one place. Spiritually, where Yaakov was sitting, represented 2 Aratzes. And the double Lashon Eretz is underscoring the neshama behind the physical existence of Yaakov Avinu. So physically, Yaakov is in one Eretz. Spiritually, the Eretz in which he is sitting is stacked, has 2 madreges, and the Torah is merames to the 2 madreges in the place Yaakov is sitting by saying the word Eretz twice. V'hainu, what does this mean? Eretz Tatov, Eretz Ilah, a lower land and a higher land, and in the language of Kabbalah, it's Bechinas Malchus and Bechinas Bina. Okay, Malchus and Bina are both Eretz. Why? We'll do that for homework. Dagam, Deshteim, Nikraim Eretz. Both Malchus and Bina are called plains. Right? In every situation, you have what you bring down, and you have the place to where you bring it. Eretz is the receptacle, the place to where you bring it. You have 2 aratzes, you have 2 planes where you bring down blessing and benevolence and good zachen from a higher level to a lower level. There's a big difference. What's the difference? Malchus is called Eretz, Bina is called Eretz, and in this pasuk, Eretz Meguri Yaviv and Eretz Canaan is an allusion to both madreges. What's the difference? The level of Malchus represents what's external and revealed. Malchus of Atzilus goes into the lower worlds, and it's called the Madrega of Almadez Gali. In other words, there's a land, there's a plane, there's a dimension that's defined by being seen. Okay, and to use the language of Chanukah, Beis Hillel. What you can see, what's exposed, what's revealed. And then there is another level of land, the Sfira Sabina, which is also a plain, it's also a plateau, where light and spirituality descends from a higher level to a lower level, and it manifests over there, but it's pnimi, it's vehelim, it's the inner dimension and the hidden dimension, Alma discussed it, the concealed world, which means what? Beshamayim. That's how we're translating it this morning, right? That what? That there are things on the outside, and there are things on the inside. Let's use the language of the Tanya class that we just completed. There's Haniglas and Hanestudies. There's the practical dimension of Judaism, which everybody sees and everyone is the same about. Hanestudies, there's the personal dimension, the inner dimension of Judaism, where no two are alike. And both of those things exist in the same space. In the same Eretz, you have Eretz HaTachtoina, a land that everybody sees, and you have Eretz HaYoina, a land that nobody sees. And the combination of the two is where Yaakov is sitting. Yaakov is sitting be'eretz Meguriyav, be'eretz Canaan. So this Maimed focuses on the word Eretz. It doesn't address the word Meguriyav. The Rebbe says here, most Maimonim bring this diuk, but just a couple of weeks ago we learned a Maimed with the whole focus on the word Meguriyav, from the word Birurim, but we learned a few weeks ago, we forgot already. We're very good at that, okay? So in this Maimed, the question is the double Lashon Eretz. Why does it say Eretz twice? And the answer is because the one space in which Yaakov is physically existing has these two dimensions. Ushtei and the Kriyim Ashas HaChaim, they're both considered living. Why? Life comes from a higher level to a lower level. Sfiras HaMelchat Mekas B'Mechin Zoh, which is called Eitz Chaim, and Sfiras HaBina B'Mechin Chochma, which is called Moker HaChaim. So there's land, and then there's a living land. There's earth, and then there's living earth. Life is a metaphysical thing, it's a spiritual thing. So the Alter Rebbe said, the Rebbe is explaining what says in the Maimonides Chassidus, Malchus, which is Eretz, receives from Zoh, which is called Eitz HaChaim, the tree of life. Bina, which is also called Eretz, receives from Chochma, which is called Moker HaChaim. So we have four ideas here. Two lands, and the notion that each of these two lands are living, and they're getting life from a level above themselves. And the point is, Yaakov Avinu is sitting in one place, and he's relating to two madrigas. That's the Chassidus. In other words, Yaakov is living in Eretz Yisrael. Spiritually, the land on which he's living has these two dimensions, the actual dimension and the ruchnistic dimension. Here's the good news and the bad news. We're done with the pussy. We're done with the pussy. Turn the page. It says in there, the rest of this Maimed talks about Torah. The truth is he does get back to the English, but the rest of this Maimed talks about Torah. On what basis? It says in Zayah, Kochabrichu, page 102, Kochabrichu is Taka Beraisa Bara Alma. Kodesh Baruch Hu looks into the Torah and creates the world. Omizem movement, and accordingly, if there are two levels, two worlds within each world, that has to be two worlds within each world of the Torah. Just like Yankov's Eretz is double, is duplicate, there's two aratzes in the Eretz where Yaakov is living, there needs to be two aratzes in the Torah which created two aratzes. And the rest of the Maimed is about Torah. I'm simplifying a little bit. The rest of this Maimed now says, just like you have two aratzes, in reality there's what you see and there's what's hidden from view, but it's also very real. Eretz HaChaim on a lower level and Eretz HaChaim on a higher level, the same is true in Torah. And the Rebbe explains immediately. The lower level of earth as it relates to Torah is Malchus, and Malchus he bechinas nigla de Torah, the revealed level of Torah. Of course you all know it says in Zayar, we say every Friday, that Malchus peh. Malchus is the Yebishter's mouth, and the Torah was spoken. So nigla the Torah means payachal the Torah, the Yebishter spoke to us and gave us. Now look at the arrow. You see I made an arrow a few lines down? Ubechinat eretz ha'ayena sfira sabina. The higher eretz is an allusion to sfira sabina. Ubechinat pnimius ha'Torah, which is the inner dimension of the Torah. Now what I want to say is as the Torah on the external level is part of the practical. What do I have to do? What I'm supposed to do? What I'm allowed to do? What I'm not allowed to do? Hamaisa shayasun ve'ela shaleis yasena. The deeds that I must do and the deeds that I'm not allowed to do. Pnimius HaTorah is not about what you do; it's how you live it. Right in the language of the Tanya class, they call Aniglas and Hanestudies. Now, what's interesting about this Maimed? The Alter Rebbe, our Rebbe, is presumably talking about two levels of Torah, but he doesn't give them equal time. You see this one line, Eretz Ha'ayena Sfira Sabina Pnimius HaTorah, That's all he says about the higher Madrega. That's it. One line. The rest of this Maimed talks about Eretz HaTachtoina. The point of the Maimed is to say, there's two lands in the land. There's therefore two Torahs in the Torah which creates that land. The higher Torah and the lower Torah. The higher Torah is Pnimius HaTorah, is the dimension that you don't see. The lower Torah is the practical dimension, and this entire Maimed is going to talk only about the lower Torah, the practical dimension. Why? Because there's more to the story. Let's go back to the beginning. 3 lines, 4 lines on the top of the page. Dehine, Hamelach. The lower level of Torah is connected to the lower level of the land, which is Kabbalistically Siddhis HaMalchus, right? What do we know about kings? We know about kings that they govern. In Yaneuk, Meishakosov, as the Pasuk says, Ashayetzi Lifneim, Vashayav Lifneim, Vashayetziyim, Vashayaviyim, in other words, on Hagasah. Kings may be wonderful people, but they're needed to govern, to make rules, to make decisions, and implement them. Like it says in the Pasuk, Melech Bamishpat Yamid Aretz, a king's job is to give ha'amada to Aretz, to give permanence, to give security, to give safety to a country. How? Laws. Hainu Shen Yanehu Lishbeit, that's Ambachulu, his role is to judge the people, to lead the people, so there should be a civil society, right? How does a civilization work, right? How does the civilization work? There's a framework, and the framework is provided by the government. And if you live in America, the government was created by the people themselves. But when people's life becomes the framework, then they're sick, right? We love to pick on America. It's our favorite subject. Yeah, America was, the government was for the people by the people, and they made a law. What was the law? The law was it has to be a separation of religion and state. Why? So people should be free to worship as they wished. What's the Gavarin? That they should be free from worship. That's what happens when the civilization defines itself by its laws. The laws are a framework. Behind that framework, there's a neshama. The neshama is the people. The civilization, the society is supposed to create a framework where the neshama of people has to emerge in a constructive way. Not there shouldn't be religion. There should be religion in a free way, which is the only way and the best way that religion should be practiced, right? But when you have just the chitzonius and you take the neshama away, as our society, our civil liberties organizations have so successfully, unfortunately done, you have a society which is spiritually dead. So you see right here, there's a land, a country. And this land has Eretz HaTachtoina, and Eretz HaYon. There's a lower level of the land and a higher level. What's the lower level of the land? The laws. What's the higher level of the land? The spirit behind it. Correct? So the Rebbe is going to focus not on the spirit behind it. He's going to focus on the laws themselves. Why? Because we're talking here about Torah. So we're going to skip that one line that I showed you earlier and move beyond it. Okay? Oh, I skipped a little. Let's go back to where I'm reading. I'm now 6 lines, 7 lines. For the top of the page, 102. U'b'teira hainu piskei halacha. And this is the fixed laws. Shab'teira, she'merois, banhagas, ha'adam, b'mais b'pel. They give a person instruction how we should behave in his practical life. And erois elo b'nigel the teira and teresh b'pel, d'man makarabaran shein. That's the lower teira. The lower teira tells us what to do. The higher teira tells us what to be. Correct? So l'cha'oira, and amayim echsidis, you should focus more on the Eretz HaYona than you should focus on Eretz HaTachtoina. Why? Because the laws and the halachas are only a framework. Inside that framework is supposed to be a pnimius. But in this Maimed, that makes a whole deal dafke out of the chitzonius. So let's go. The piskei hadinim lahalacha. One line after that arrow. The fixed laws lahalacha heim ba'aretz hatachteina dafke are dafke on the lower level. K'maimed, like it says in Gemara, teira leba shemayim ein mashgichem bebaskel manecha rabban achmeni. Halacha has to be pasken down here in the Shaming, and they cannot pasken. The famous story in the Gemara that they were having an argument with Kuchabrichla, Mr. Derekia, what you do if the suffix doesn't say I love and couple of beheaders, right? They were arguing about a suffix, an uncertainty in the case of Tzaras. So there was decided that the Rabbi Ban Nachmani, who was a living man, should pasken in an argument with Kuchabrichla and Mr. Derekia. So he said Tahir, and he passed away, as he said that word. But the halacha has to be dafka down here in this world. It says in the middle of 7 lines under the paragraph. When the great Tanoim and Amiroim gave Piskei Din, Lamata, it was based on what they saw on high. Says the Rebbe, nevertheless, the actual law that they gave, the halacha is based, it's based on how they understood it on the nigla level. So although it's true that they had Ruach HaKodesh, they were sensitive to the neshama of Torah, but you can't pass him from Kabbalah. You can't pass him from Ruach HaKodesh. You can't pass him from the Maila. You have to pass him by understanding the Torah Lamata. Right? How do Jewish people get to the truth? How do Jewish people get to the truth? I never know the answer to that question. I'll answer the question with a question. What do Jewish people do best?
Debate.
Argue. Argue, that's right, debate. Argue. And they argue, and they argue, and they argue, and they argue, and that's how you have a Mitzvah Shel Torah. What about the fact that Ruach HaKodesh? Ruach HaKodesh is wonderful. But the halacha has to be paskined down here. Correct? Says the Rebbe, Dapsakdin lepeil tzarich liyizdavke keshamevin besich liyishalach. I just read the last words of the first paragraph, page 182. Says the Rebbe, next paragraph, page 182. And again, I want to repeat again what's interesting here. We started off with Vayeshev, which explains, if I had to use it, my own words, every land has two lands. In the case of Yaakov Avinu's habitation, in the Eretz, there's two madregas, a lower level and a higher level. And the Rebbe immediately flips from physical land to Torah, and says there's a lower Torah and a higher Torah. What's the difference? The lower Torah gives you laws, the higher Torah gives you a spirit. But this Maimer doesn't focus on the higher Torah, with what you would expect of a Maimer Chasidus. It focuses dafka on the laws. Let's go. Ve'zehu inyan eretz hatachtena. Shabbatai, new paragraph, bottom of the page, 102. This is the pshat, the lower land, in as much as Torah is concerned, which is bechinas nigla de Torah. V'Torah shabal peh, the revealed level of Torah, and the oral Torah that addresses real practical issues in the real practical world. This is called the lower level. So the Rebbe goes off on a tangent. V'agam she'omer Razal, doesn't the Gemara say, the Medrash say, Lama nikra shmo eretz, she'eretz salasas, the same case. The word eretz connotes ratzon, which is much higher than eretz, and earth. The mizamuvah which bechinas eretz, bechinas ratzon, eretz is the lineage of ratzon. So the Rebbe answers, this is also connected to Torah Sheba'al Peh, like it says in Yaakov HaKodesh. Okay, if I had time I would explain it. The bottom line is, mitzvahs are higher than Chachma. Mitzvahs come to us through the Torah. The Torah teaches through the mitzvahs. But in the end, Al Tehi Yeshiv is Rambam right, that mitzvahs of the Torah are gzeres. They're higher than understanding. Nevertheless, says the Rambam, Kol she'efsher litan leitam, ten leitam. If you can find a reason for a mitzvah, whereas the Rambam would say for parts of a mitzvah, apply logic to the mitzvahs to the extent possible, but you should know mitzvahs are gzeres, because mitzvahs come from higher than Chochmah. So therefore, on the one hand, eretz means will, which is higher than Chochmah. On the other hand, eretz means land, it means how it all comes down to a practical level.
So even mishpatim and edis mitzvah?
Oh yeah, oh, of course. Are you kidding?
Are all gezeros?
Absolutely. Of course.
Even though they're but you're saying, but
are they
they're understandable, like mishpatim.
The Rambam rips the pieces. The Rambam, if you look at any mitzvah, every mitzvah has nuance, details. Right. The nuances of mitzvahs don't all make sense. The basic mitzvah makes sense in the case of mishpatim, but if you start analyzing the subtleties, it doesn't make sense. And the Rambam gives a Rambam-like explanation for this in the Menevuchim. But in the Yad he says the truth of the matter is it's all gzeres. And you understand what you could understand, but you need to understand that it's really much more.
What's gezeres?
Decrees, edicts, laws. 103 at the top. V'zehu inyan Eretz Canaan. That's why it's called Eretz Canaan. So the question was, we know why it was called Canaan, because the Canaanites lived there. But there's a lot of ways the Torah could have described Eretz Yisrael and avoiding referencing them as Canaan, particularly since they were Ganovim in the first place. Why does the Torah insist? So the Tantra Parsha Vayeshev, which is also in Parsha Vayeshev, says the Rebbe, Dehine Canaan is Loshen Seicher. Earlier we associate Canaan with being a Ganef. Canaan is a Ganef, Canaan is cursed, Canaan is all kinds of bad stuff. But the word Canaan, besides for being a people, represents a tagir, right? A merchant, right? Where do we have Kanaani? The most intimate Kanaani in our lives. Right, in the last special. But the most intimate Kanaani in our lives, you know what? It's an Eishes Chayil. When you talk Eishes Chayil, you can't complain. Why? It's a women's prayer right there. What are you going to do? It says, right? Sodin osasava timkeir v'chager nosna laknani. Right? This Eishes Chayil is both a manufacturer and a sales lady, and a merchant, alle gute Sachen. And one of the relationships, one of the associates, I like to say, that she has is Kanani. What's that Kanani? Kanani means a merchant, a seicher. And in Rashi, in Parsha Vayeshev, translate Kanani from the word seicher, right? Vayad bas isha ish Kanani, u'shmei Shua, vayave aleha, right? Yehuda marries a woman named Bas Shua and has 3 sons. Eir, Einan, and Sheila, correct? And the woman's name is Bas Shua. Bas Shua, her father was called a Knani. First made Knani, says Rashi Tagra, a merchant. Right? The Pirish Rashi, the Knani Tagra. And the same we go for Chu. When it says in the Pasuk Knani, Biyodei Mozne Mirma, that the Knani has in his hands weights, Moiznayim, weights, measures of deception. So we understood Knani mean to the people of Canaan. Says the Rebbe, no, this means a merchant, a businessman, a sheicher. And sometimes this mirma, this deviousness, this trickery is not so bad. Let's keep reading. Here's a lesson in business. This is a Gemara. This is a Maimech Chassidus, yeah, but they have the Gemara Masechet Pesachim also about this, yes? The way one does business is as follows. You take a risk for a reward. You don't give $1 to get $1, you give $1 to get 2. Mefazer kaspi is a have, you dispense of your silver and your gold. By day apizod, and by taking this risk, you can profit on the levach, incredibly profit an enormous amount. That's Knani. Knani means a businessman. He profits. But in order to profit, you have to take risks. And oftentimes the risks involve mirma. Mirma doesn't mean dishonesty. Mirma means more than one cheshbon. But the Rebbe explains mirma in a spiritual sense. Mirma doesn't mean I'm cheating the other guy. Mirma means I have a hidden plan. Look at this. I'm reading the second line from the end of that first paragraph on page 103. The same is true in this case, that we're talking about Torah and mitzvahs on the level of Eretz HaTachtoina, the lower level of Torah, not the higher level of Torah. Right? The Chitzoni is Torah, the Torah that governs our lives, as opposed to the Torah that reveals the spirit of our lives. And he says, you come out into this world, you have a bunch of rules on this earth that you have to follow, but in that there is already a purpose. It's not only that you have, how did I describe it to you earlier? You have a set of rules that govern a civilization. In the parameters of those rules, there's a spirit, which is the way people are supposed to live. And that's the Eretz Yoino. You cannot separate the spirit of how people are supposed to live from the laws of the land, says the Rebbe, but in the laws of the land there's also a spirit. In the laws of the land itself there's also a spirit. What's the spirit? To profit. To get more than you give. What does it mean in Ruchnias? The neshama comes on into this world. The descent of a soul into this world is Pizur V'Helim. It's a dispensation of wealth, an exposure to risk, but and through this there's an ultimate profit, the descent for the sake of an ascent. In other words, if I may use words, yeah, there is an outer Torah and an inner Torah, which is supposed to govern our lives. The outer Torah is a framework. The inner Torah is the way we're supposed to live. But when you appreciate that the outer Torah is not only a set of rules that are supposed to be the basis for how you're supposed to live, here's why. Because if the outer Torah was a series of rules that's supposed to govern the way you're supposed to live alone, we would have to focus on the inner Torah. That's the point. But we're now learning that this outer Torah, with the rules that it provides, is not simply a framework for how we're supposed to live. It's a risk. It's an investment. Right? A neshama in Gan Eden has rules. It's not focusing on the rules. It's focusing on the spirit of Gan Eden. A neshama down here comes into this world. And in this world he has an outer Torah and an inner Torah. The outer Torah, the rules that govern his life. But the outer Torah, which are the rules that govern his life, is Knani. The very fact that my neshama came into this world, I've taken a risk. So here we have something interesting. Here we say, if I may use the Hebrew, that Chitzonius HaTorah has its own Pnimius. The outer dimension of Torah, which is the laws, doesn't only have the Pnimius HaTorah, which is something very esoteric and mystical. The outer level of Torah itself has its own soul. What's the soul? Why did we should do this? Why put an neshama into a world where we can make all kinds of mistakes and get into all kinds of trouble, hurt itself very, very severely, and have to follow rules? And the answer is, it's mefazes v'nei safed. So in contrast to how it would normally be, where the rules simply are a framework, and in those rules you have to live, in this case the rules themselves have a soul. The neshama coming into this world has rules. And what are the rules? We came into this world and we took a risk. Why did we take this risk? Because there's a profit margin. It's worth it. So you understand the difference, right? In this case, the Rebbe is saying, the chitzonius ha'Torah, the eretz ha'tachtoina, is an inyan for itself. It's not just a framework for the pnimius, it's an inyan for itself, because this lower level is the risk that's supposed to bring a reward. We know the reason the neshama came into this world is for a subsequent ascent. And he has a bunch of details here, a lot of technical details. The nekud of all these details is describing from sources in Pesukim and Chazal this notion of Yidid Tzedek Aliyah. And he begins with Neira Lila Neyada. That when the Eibishter puts a person into this world, he tricks him. The Eibishter puts a person in this world, he tricks him, right? Mordechai Ben David has a song, which my kids are playing in the house. The neshama has to come into this world, and he sees what's going on, and he says, listen, I want to be over there. You see the koil, I want to be over there. And the Malach tells him, this is your mission, but right before I say goodbye to you, you're going to forget where you came from and who you are, go figure it out. Excuse me, I didn't sign on for that, bye-bye, it's done, right? Neira, the Eibishter sets up the neshama using an alilo. In other words, the neshama is, so to speak, tricked to come into this world. Why? The koil adam rish nivbegan. Why? Because you need the tzedek aliyah. There's a return. There's a benefit. There's a profit. And it says about Gan Eden 3 lines into the paragraph. Even in Gan Eden, there's work to be done. Even the world of Gan Eden, which is Elam, if the world was perfect, skip a line. Even in such an environment, the word ha'adam is circled. Even in Gan Eden, there was place for Adam Rishon and Chava to correct it. When they were placed in Gan Eden on that Shabbat, that Friday afternoon, and they had to get the Shabbat, that transgressing the eating from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, they were told they have work to do. The work of Gan Eden, whatever that is. That man was placed in Gan Eden. In other words, through his service is not only preserving Gan Eden, but Moiseh bebechinas Gan Eden, he adds to something called Gan Eden. Moreover, bebechinas Eden, he adds to something called Eden. V'gam mamshech l'maylam bebechinas Eden, he brings down what is even higher than Eden. And the Rebbe refers us to Samach Vov. I don't know Samach Vov the best in the world, but I've learned Samach Vov a few times. The idea of Gan Eden I remember from Samach Vov. The idea of Eden I remember from Samach Vov. The idea of l'maylam Eden I don't remember from Samach Vov. But the Rebbe says here, a neshama comes into this world, even as Adam and Chava come into Gan Eden, not just to preserve it and to protect it, but to enhance Gan Eden, to enhance Eden, and to add something which is even more than Eden. The descent creates an enormous asset. Okay? Now, we're 10 lines from the bottom of the page. So far, we had 2 quotes. The first quote was, Meira Lila Neyadam. The descent of the neshama into this world is an alila. It's a libel. It's a deception that the Eibishter employs for the benefit of it. And the second was Vayanecheyu began Eden li'avdul neshama. Now goes a third. V'zehu tevli teiras picha. The words teiras picha are underlined. It's preferred the Torah of your mouth may alfei zav kesef, from thousands of coins of gold and silver. So Chassidus teaches the word alfei from the word alef chachma, to learn, and zav kesef is yiras, gold is yira, and kesef is ahava. Zav kesef or ahava yira. The neshama lefnei yira das lamata med avas yira mitiyim. The neshama in Gan Eden is learning Torah and having avas Hashem and yiras Hashem. When it comes into this world, all of these things are quite complicated. Mikol mokem, nevertheless, 6 lines in the bottom. Chevli teira spicha. Limud teira befiha odol lamata. Teira, as you and I learn here in this world, is preferred. May alfei zav chesef, from the learning which brings to the yira and to the ahava which a neshama has in Gan Eden. Why? The answer is Jews, business. Right? What's the next word? Profit. Profit margin. The neshama comes into this world and is exposed to an environment, what we're calling in this context Malchus Chitzenius HaTorah, and the purpose is not the Pnimius HaTorah, the purpose is the risk that is taken in the Yeridus HaNeshama Lamata, and the profit that's going to come from it ultimately. Okay? So we're now starting 5 lines from the bottom of the page. Ubeshvil them, because of this advantage, someone overlooks the fear of Hashem and love of Hashem for the benefit. What is gained by the neshama coming into this world to benefit? So you have 3 psukim so far, right? And you have 1 more now. 4 lines from the bottom of 103. There's a pasuk in Shirashirim that says, I am black and I am beautiful, daughters of Jerusalem. So you have a conversation that's taking place between 2 individuals. One of them is called Bnei Yerushalayim, identified by name, and the other is Ani, whoever I am. And I, says to Bnei Yerushalayim, I may be black, but I'm still beautiful. Translates the Rebbe, Bnei Yerushalayim, Heman Hashamas Lamayil. The daughter of Jerusalem means the neshama that is in Gan Eden. Last line on page 103. Vaneshama sheyarda lamata, the soul that descends into this world. V'yevachin as shachas v'hester, which is black and covered over. Ahmed has turned to page 104. Says Lebnei Yerushalayim shcheir ani and black. So Kabbalistically speaking, top of page 104 now. Shama down here says to her counterpart in Malchus of Atzilus, you're gorgeous. I'm black, but I'm also beautiful. I'm beautiful in spite of my struggle. Page 104 at the top. When the neshama comes down here into this world, true beauty is when you deal with these kinds of challenges. So there's a notion of Yidus Seirach Aliyah, right? So the Rebbe says, 2nd line from the top of page 104, our mime is not about neshamas. Our mime is about Torah. Right? And what's the celebration of our maimer? Even though the maimer says there's an Eretz HaTachtoina and the Eretz HaYoina, we're ignoring the Eretz HaYoina. We're making the Eretz HaTachtoina into an entity unto itself. Or to use the language I said earlier, we're not seeing Eretz HaTachtoina as a framework for Eretz HaYoina. We're seeing Eretz HaTachtoina as an entity unto itself. Why? Because the descent into Eretz HaTachtoina is not only a framework for Eretz HaYoina, the descent to the Eretz HaTachtoina has a risk factor. Why? You need to Aliyah. So the pnimius of Eretz HaTachtoina is also Eretz HaTachtoina, but it's the profit from Eretz HaTachtoina, right? Says the Rebbe, Sha'ateda leiba shamayim, Teda is not in heaven. V'dafka, Teda das alamata, only as the Teda comes down below. 4 lines, top of the page, after parenthesis. It manifests in arguments which are the opposite of the truth. To find out what the truth is between one who's telling the truth and one who's lying. 6 lines from the top. This idea that Torah wastes its time to get into the mind of a liar. Language of the Gemara. To figure out who's telling the bigger lie. And to ascertain what the halacha is, this is the Yidit Tzedek Aliyah. This is the neshamas. The Torah descends to have a benefit. The benefit of having brought a clarity to a place that's dark. You know that there's a man from the Rebbe, which you learned in Chitas a couple of weeks ago. You know how the Tanya works? You know how Chitas works? Everybody starts out to discuss, they're very excited. And some stay excited, and some lose their interest. For some people it's Chanukah, for some people it's Seder B'Tevis, for some people it's Hey Tevis, and some people like get through it. Oh, this is so good. I remember this from last year, 2 years ago. Yeah. But then you learn the Kut Amar and Sefer Shabbanim, and then you get to Kut Amar and Sharich Adamun, and here a lot of people say, "Oh no, this is much too hard." And some people manage, yeah, and they get through Sharich Adamun, and they get through Geras HaTshuva, and they start learning Geras HaKodesh. As you labor through the Geras HaKodesh, more and more people fall off the wagon, right? The people who mamish hang on and get the Kuntas Acharin, and they say, "Oh no, it's only a couple of weeks." One of the Geras HaKodesh Al Rebbe has is that there are halachas which are discussed in Shas that could never happen. They are so obscure, they're so theoretical. There was a man named Rabbi Yirmiyah who was always saying, "What if? What if? What if the bird has 1 foot inside the 50 amas and 1 foot after 50 amas?" The Gemara Baba Basra. So the Gemara says they threw him out of the yeshiva. He was making everybody crazy with these what ifs. Said, "Get out of here." And like 80 blocks later, they needed his help with something. They brought him back into the yeshiva. How much time was it between they kicked Rabbi Yirmiyah out and they let him back into the yeshiva? He says it was a Litva yeshiva, it was 10 years. It was a Chassidish yeshiva, it was a couple of months. That's how quickly he moved through the Masechta. But what if? So the Gemara have certain sugyas, like by Kinim, by the shalos of birds, and also by the Sveikas that the Rambam brings up about Maaseh Behema, He brings examples of cases which are never going to happen. And people spend so much time learning the Anam of Torah, which are totally theoretical, not Negei Halacha L'Maisa. And Al Rebbe says, Amoid in the Gezach. He says, everything in the Torah has a parallel in the world. Or vice versa. Everything in the world has a parallel in the Torah. When you learn an Inyan in Torah, which is never going to happen to people, but the energy of that thing exists in the world, and simply learning it in the Torah corrects it in the world. In other words, when you have a shaila, someone has a situation, I don't know what the din is, to come to of. If the shaila never happens, but in spirit the possibility for the shaila happens, and when you're learning it in Torah, you're mavarid it in the world. That's what Torah is. But Torah, not the higher Torah, the lower Torah. So the Rebbe says, Hine dafka yedei zeh ba'al aliyah. When you come down into this world and you learn nigla, you learn the Torah that deals with the practical sides of life and the struggles of getting through the real world. This is what aliyah is. Kamayim, as the Gemara says, 6 lines on top of page 104. Ashrei mi shabol lakan v'talmud. Very fortunate is he who comes here. Here means ne'elma emes, and he brings along with him his learning. But what's made talyuv from the biyadei adei talmudei biyadei? What Torah does he bring with him? Teganeden talmudei shalom ad be'elam azeh. The Torah that he learned in this world. That's how you made. In other words, everybody loves to learn Torah, right? Everybody loves to learn Torah. What do people not love to do? At least responsible people. Paskin halachas. Go ask your local rabbi, right? Why do you pay a rabbi? You need a guinea pig. If everybody's a Talmud Chacham in town, why do you need a Rav? Rav has to paskin. There's the mice with the Rebbe Rashab. I told you the story before. The Rebbetzin, Shteiner Sarah. The Rebbe Rashab's Rebbetzin, yeah? She had a chicken with a broken leg. A chicken with a broken leg is discolored. And based on the color, you can determine whether the leg was broken before the shechita or after the shechita. And if it was broken before the shechita, the bird is treif. If the leg was broken after the shechita, the bird is kosher. So she went to look for the Rav. Who was the Rav in the house? Yankel Lander, Allah Shalom. The big Rav, the Rav of Bnei Barak. Then he was a Bachar, he was 4 years married yet. She went looking for the Rav. Couldn't find him. She walks into her husband, and there he is. So she walks, holding a chicken. She walks up to her husband, the Rebbe, and Yankel Landau. And she shows her husband the shaila on the chicken and says, "Can I use it?" So the Rebbe Rashab turns to Yankel Landau, who was a chassid, a sworn chassid. He wouldn't open his mouth in front of his Rebbe and says, "No, it's your job." And Yankel Landau is standing there like, "How can I paskin halacha in the presence of the Rebbe? It's asur," and so on. And the Rebbe says, "No, you get paid for this." But however he worded it, very, very good naturedly. We told him, "This is your job." So eventually he said, "Mekenisness, you may use it." And the Rebbe Rashab said, "Zog, that's not good enough. Say." The Rebbe wanted him to say kosher. That's the koyach of it. Nobody wants to paskin halacha. Why? God forbid you make a mistake. In Gan Eden, there's no such concept. There's no such concept where a decision you make in an idea can have a real effect on real people in a real world. That's the Talmud Eviyadeh. The Chitzonius HaTorah, the lower level of Torah, which is the rules, is part of the Yerida Tzerech Aliyah. This level of Torah addresses the reality of the world and the struggles of this world. Therefore, Dafka, the lower level of Torah, has this property of a Talmud Eviyadeh. You come to Gan Eden, a lot of Kabbalah, a lot of Hasidus, we got more here than that. But a halacha, there's no such thing in Gan Eden. And that's the type of Talmud Eviyadeh. The Yeseidim is moreover dafka de liba Torah lamato. When a person learns Torah down here, interesting. Hariya adam aleimed mesachet v'yichud nifla shein yichud kameya ve'erke nimtza klal imeraisa v'kutzavrichu. Very interesting. In Gan Eden, when you learn Torah, you don't become one with the Eibishter. In this world, when you learn Torah, you become one with the Eibishter. This is, he mentions the Hemshech Hayim Beis, and I don't know exactly what this means, and time doesn't allow us to go into it. Okay, next paragraph. On the Madayin Tzarech, there remains one question. You say that Knani means a merchant. Knani doesn't mean a lowlife, it means a merchant. Who is the merchant? The Neshama. The Neshama wasn't given a choice whether to come into this world or not to come into this world. But once the Neshama comes into the world, it's acting in lieu of a merchant. The very descent into this world is an investment, is taking a risk for the benefit of a return. And therefore, as I'm teaching you this Maimed, there is purpose in Eretz HaTachtoina, there is purpose in the lower level of Torah that's completely separate from Eretz HaYoina, from the inner dimension of the Torah. Right? That's the spirit of this maimer. So why? You have to struggle with it. But why mirma? Why does it have to involve deception? As the pasuk says, Knan b'yadei boznei mirma. And he asked the question. I see the pasuk says, also lakim es adam yashar. Man was meant to walk straight, but someone said, why must we do deception? Of course, the answer is, a neshama in Gan Eden walks straight. A neshama in this world needs to be very, very, very quick. Okay? V'hagam shapirish Rashi b'mirma chochma. I don't have time to give you the long arichas, but there's a pasuk, I wrote it on the margin. Ani chochma shachanti orma. Ani chochma, I am wisdom, my neighbor is orma. So you have in Chassidus a whole sugya that Orma is next to Chachma. What's next to Chachma? Keser. So oftentimes Mirma is higher than Seichel, like you learned the Parsha of Yaakov and Esav, where he steals the brachas. It goes on Keser. But here it actually translates the word Mirma as Chachma. So the Shaila is, even if you hold that Mirma doesn't mean higher than Chachma, it means Chachma itself, and the question remains, why must there be, so to speak, a duplicity, even if it's idea Chachma, even if it's just being reasonable? But it's the kind of reason that allows you to be deceptive and a step ahead and outsmart your opponent to win. Why is it necessary there should be this deviousness? And the answer is, the teretz is, the answer is because if it got made. The Eibush did not make a straight up world. You want a straight up world? Sit in Gan Eden. The Eibush made this world to be deceptive. And the Eibush gave us the koyach to navigate this world using our own chokhmah. Okay? Only when a Yid is smart in his relationship with the world, you reach a higher madrega, and he gives a whole bunch of examples. He means Hanachash Aya Arum, and the Shviras HaKelim, the bottom line is, if you look 4 lines from the bottom of the page, it says, the famous expression is the reason you have to use orma, whether it means chokhmah or it means deception, because in this world we're trying to get the additional light from darkness and the additional wisdom from foolishness. The one doing the clarifying has to be part of the clarification itself. To correct this world, you must yourself be a part of this world. Top of page 105, the neshama descends into this world. That before it came down, it was in a very good place. 3 lines from the top of the page at the end of the line, it comes down into this world and deals with double darkness. He comes to the double knot. You know what's written in the double knot? The double knot's about tshuva. Everybody is connected to the Yebishter, yeah? What happens when you tear a string and you retie it? One knot's not going to hold. You have to make double. The place where it was torn, you have to have doubled and redoubled the tshuva. So the Rebbe says, and the neshama comes into this world, which is a double darkness. The compensation is that even if he never does a single aved in his life, it's the mailas hatshuva. It's a double knot. Kiflayel metushia. And this is the pshat Vayeshev Yaakov beres Megurei. Okay, so I want to just finish and repeat. Here's a maimed that asks a question: why it says twice aretz, and explains that in every aretz you have 2 aretzes, both in the Yaakov Avinu's life as well as in Torah. But then the maimed goes off in a different direction and says, there is a pnimiyas deka aretz and a chitzonias deka aretz, and it makes sense that the pnimiyas deka aretz should be the soul of the chitzonias deka aretz. In this case, the chitzonias deka aretz is an inyan itself. Why? Because coming into this aretz is a risk, and therefore navigating this aretz requires great chokhmah, and there is benefit in it. In other words, to use Kabbalistic language, when a neshama comes on into this world, it's not only for the sake of yichudim. Yichudim would be how the eretz hachitzayna is a framework for the eretz hapnimis. There's also birurim, there's also tshuva, and there's also nisyanis, all kinds of other purposes, where the chitzaynis, the ketayra, is its own end. It's not just a means to an end, which is pnimius hatayra, but the chitzaynis